Hey everybody, welcome to Secure the Seat Live. My name is Minda Hartz. I'm your host. Thank you for joining us on this Monday morning or afternoon, or if you're catching the replay later in the week, we're happy that you're here. You could be anywhere on the internet right now and you're here with us, so I appreciate that so much. How was your weekend? Let us know in the chat how your weekend was. I hope you did something that helped prioritize your mental health and help you sustain the rest of the week that you have ahead. I had definitely a busy last week, but Saturday I took some time to spend with friends and enjoy a good meal, and then I was back on the work train on Sunday. But it was nice to have that space. And today we're going to talk about prioritizing your self-care and building community, because as many of you know, one thing that I always say is that success is not a solo sport. And we are kind of winding down the month of March. So this is really great. Happy that you're here. And I have a great guest, Shantera Chapman. She is an amazing, amazing woman. And I had the pleasure of actually meeting her in person last year at her retreat. I was honored that she invited me to be a speaker, and I got to poke my head in certain sessions. And I am like, okay, Minda, you need this for yourself too. You can't always be the one coming and pouring into cups. You need to receive some pouring too. And I was like, you know what? I mean, I loved her work before, but when I was at the retreat, even as a speaker, I knew that it was a special and sacred place. And I wanted to bring Chantera on today to talk about that, because I want you all to know about this retreat, the Her Way retreat, so that maybe this is an opportunity for you to prioritize your self-care. Because if we don't do it, if we don't be intentional about it, then at least I'll speak for me, it won't happen if I don't carve it out. And so we're going to talk more about that today. But before we jump into that and we bring Chantera to the stage, I'm going to read a little bit more from my next book that's out April 5th. I can't believe it. My birthday is actually April 8th. And so this is like an early gift, April 5th. And it's called You Are More Than Magic, The Black and Brown Girl's Guide to Finding Your Voice. The reason why I wrote this book is because I realized that some of the stuff that I put in the memo and that I put in right within, I'm like, you know what? We actually need to be talking about this to the 14-year-old me, to the 15-year-old me. Like, some of these conversations need to happen a little bit sooner. And so we're going to drop the link in the chat. Please support this book. This is such an important book. I was recording the audiobook just a couple weeks ago, and there were points within the book where I just got emotional, because I'm like, if I had this language as a teenager, of course things panned out the way that they were supposed to in my life, but had I had a few more tools in my toolkit, how amazing could I really have been, right? To see myself in ways and not shrink myself early on. And so please pre-order. Pre-orders matter, but I just want to read a little bit. There's some different concepts in the book, and one of them is difficult conversations, because I feel like sometimes as adults, those are already hard to have, but as teenage girls, I would even say boys need to be reading this book too. Everybody needs to be reading it. But I talked about courageous conversations, because I think that as young girls, sometimes we get mixed signals. You know, sometimes you'll hear adults say, speak up, or stay out of grown folks' business, or all these different mixed emotions, and you don't know how to process that all the time. And then when we are silenced, even unintentionally, sometimes we don't know how to show up when we need to have difficult conversations with our professors or our teachers or our parents. And so I'm just going to read a little bit of it to give you a sample. So if you're thinking about getting it for someone in your world that's a teenager, just to give you a little insight from a chapter about tough conversations. As you were thinking about how to tackle your next tough conversation, here are 6 steps to keep in mind. Ask yourself what you want to get out of having this conversation. Do you want the other person to just listen to you, to let you get this tough thing off your chest? Do you want to engage in a real dialogue and truly listen to each other's perspectives? Or do you need some support and guidance from the other person? Maybe it's a mix of all 3. In the conversation I just described with my parents, I wanted to make them aware of what had happened. And I hoped that that would lead to a real dialogue around the estranged family member, which I believed was long overdue. You might start out the conversation by saying, hey, Granny, I want to talk to you about something, and I really need a good listener right now. Or, hey, Mom, I've had something on my mind for a while now, and I was hoping that I could get your advice about it. That's just a little sample, but I talk about a whole different approaches to how we have conversations with adults, Sometimes we just need people to hear us out. Sometimes we need advice. Sometimes we just need, also, I talk about when is the right time to bring it to your parent or guardian, right? If they're just walking through the door after a hard day, you may not get the response that you want to this difficult conversation, right? Would it make sense to maybe wait a little bit? And so I just think it's so important for us to, again, make sure that our young girls have the tools that they need to be successful way before they get to corporate or nonprofit worlds, but they have the tools to be more. It takes a lot to be magic, okay? It takes a lot. And so we want to make sure that they have what they need. And so I'm so excited about it. And I'll be honest, even as an adult, I think that there'll be a lot of adults that'll read this book too. But without further ado, we're going to bring today's special guest to the stage. We're talking about prioritizing self-care and building community because it's so important. This is Women's History Month. And, you know, as women, we talk a lot about a lot of different things, but one of the most important things is our self-care and our mental health. And if we don't have that, then it's hard to do and show up in any other aspect. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Shantera Chapman. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey. How are you?
Good, good. It's so good to see your face. I'm so happy that you're here. For those who may not be familiar with your work, tell us a little bit more about you.
Oh, yes. So I'm Shantera Chapman. I'm a global culture strategist. I have been working in the space of strategy, culture development for probably over 20 years. So I'm dating myself a little bit, but in the background, I've always worked with helping women build themselves and women's empowerment. I've had a nonprofit, the Chapman Women's Foundation, for 14 years now. And so what we're going to be talking about is kind of an extension of the work that I've done kind of in my corporate space, as well as in my nonprofit world for all these years. I've been able to kind of start to blend them together now. I'm kind of grateful to be able to kind of help both worlds at the same time now. And I'm just kind of really excited about being able to finally be able to do things where I can see both of my passions kind of blend together.
Well, I'm glad that you decided to do that. And I mean, you have the receipts. You've been doing this work for a very long time, and we appreciate how you show up for each and every one of us. And for those who may just be joining us, at the top of the show, I was saying that Shantera had invited me to be a speaker at her first retreat last year. And as I was poking my head into different sessions while I was there at this beautiful retreat space in Arizona, I was like, oh Lord, I need this for myself. I need a space where I can go to get poured into. And I'm like, you know what? I have to share the goods with the Secure the Seat community, because if we don't prioritize our self-care, then nobody else will. So with the first question, Shantera, why do you think it's hard for Black women and women of color to prioritize self-care and invest in themselves in these type of ways?
Oh, well, one, because we're always doing. We're so busy. First, you said You Are the Magic, your book, because Black girl magic is exhausting. Because it's overwhelming. We're always doing. And I started to think about, me, I'm always doing for everybody. My task list is nonstop, and it's going on and on and on. It's always for other people, and I'm at the bottom of it. And I think that's where, that's why it's so hard for us to stop and do for us. We always have other people at the top, and it's time for us to start prioritizing us.
That part. It's time for the people in the back, in the front, in the pews, up in the foyer area. We have to start prioritizing ourselves. And so let's talk a little bit about it. Tell us why you created the Her Way Retreat. What is it? Who's it for? And we'll drop the link in the chat so that people can get on the list. And you don't even have to ask, is it for you? Yes, go ahead and click the link.
Yeah, the Her Way Retreat, I created the Her Way Retreat for Black female executives. As I was sitting here during COVID, I'm thinking, one, I've had this nonprofit for a while, and I didn't have anything where it catered to the demographic of women that were trying to climb a ladder, that were trying to get somewhere higher in their companies. I usually will go towards the women who may be, just struggling a little bit more, maybe ladies who are getting out of shelters, or ladies who are just trying to get better jobs, not ladies who may be in the C-suite, ladies who are trying to get to the C-suite, or even those entrepreneurs who are B2B, have B2B businesses. And I thought, why am I leaving those women out? Because those are my people. That's my tribe. I was in corporate America for all those years trying to climb up to the very top. And now I have my business where I'm a B2B business. I'm leaving that space out. And I'm looking on TV now during COVID, and I'm seeing that those are those women that are exhausted. We're those ladies that are trying to do everything, and also those women who are being leaned on in corporate America after everything has fallen apart, that are being asked to go and also be the ones to try to train for free that companies are expecting to go do the DEI work as well. Because I'm getting those phone calls from my friends going, can you believe this company is trying to tell me I need to go and teach too? And so all of these things, and they're exhausted, and they're also moms who are trying to, pray for their kids to come home safe at night because of all of the madness in this world. And I thought it's time for us to prioritize us. And maybe I can do something that's small enough that I can make it, intimate. It could still be safe during COVID, because I know you and I talked about that, whether this was going to be a virtual event versus face-to-face, but even also small enough that people felt comfortable sharing and being open, and then luxurious, because I still want to be able to put these women on a pedestal. I want to be able to make them feel like they are just queens. So that was all the things that I was thinking about. Is we had the self-care piece, but I wanted it to be luxurious. I still wanted them to get some substance. So there was a professional development part of it. And there was just all of those things that were in my mind. I wanted them to have time for themselves. I wanted them to be able to breathe and feel like they had time just for themselves.
Let me get my tambourine. Breathe. What would it look like if we actually had time to breathe? We might actually have time to think. We might actually have time.
Right. And so I called it Her Way, because every time someone would say, hey, what should I wear when we go to dinner? Or what should I wear when we do this? And I'll say, it's going to be, sure, let's say business casual, but it's your way. Let's say do this, but it's your way. Whatever you want to do. No one's going to talk about what your hair looks like here. Nobody's going to ask you what color you need to wear here. And that was what was freeing about it. No one had to explain what they looked like. No one had to explain their hairstyle. Everyone could come as they were. And it was just their way of being.
Listen, we're dropping the link in the chat. Chantera, when is the next retreat so people can start to save or connect with their companies for, professional development?
The next retreat is September 23rd to the 25th. It's going to be at the Phoenician in Scottsdale, Arizona. Okay,
listen, I typically don't like to approve any type of message that I haven't actually read or participated in my own way. But listen, ladies and gentlemen who wants to send a loved one to have it her way. I went to this retreat. Again, I was a speaker, but it was just beautiful. I'm one of those Black girls that loves luxury. I love Black girl luxury. And it was everything that I had expected. I didn't even expect it. I travel a lot. I speak in a lot of places, but Chantera and her team, they rolled out the red carpet. It was, from dinners to the conversations. I think I had teared up at one of the sessions that I had popped into just because it was such a safe space. It was women being vulnerable. Like Chantera said, you didn't have to worry about somebody, aggressing you, or, we could just talk about the things that only we know that we deal with. And even in my book, Right Within, I dedicate it to Black women, for those who had to be strong for everybody but themselves. But what if you put yourself first? And we love it. And the chat is, I'm watching people on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and people are like, yes, I need that in my life. So we're dropping the chat again. So Chantera, last year you hosted the retreat for the first time. Why do you think having a community is so critical as part of our self-care for women of color in the workplace?
I think because we don't have not too many places. I'm not going to say there is not one, but what I found last year was that we don't have many opportunities to just let our hair down and be affirmed without having to explain all the time. We were able to just talk, and immediately someone would just just kind of nod their heads in affirmation and just say, I hear you. And there was no extra explanation needed. And everyone, like you said, someone would tear up and someone would automatically just go hold their hand. And no one had to say anything extra. There was not a lot of there was no competition. No one felt like someone was, beating, going after anything for them. And then there's this the notion that Black women can't work together. What I've been finding over these past few months is some of these ladies are now doing business together. They're starting to, they found this safe space. They've created this community, and now they're calling each other. They're like, I heard you mentioned this. Now let's try to do something together. Now let's work on this together, because we've now created a bond. We trust each other because our barriers, our walls are down. We don't feel like we have to compete. And I feel like that's the missing piece, or that's something that we don't see on TV. We see us always fighting and clashing. If we create these types of communities where we can share and we can see the commonalities rather than the differences, then we can start to work better together. And I think that's what this type of retreat has helped to do.
Again, thank you for having the courage to put something like this together, because it takes a lot of work. And after being there, I was like, I can only imagine how much work it took. But what I think we don't often understand is how important. I know for me, I never used to say, Chantera, that I'm so tired. But I'll tell you, in the last 2 years, if I had $1 for every time I said how tired I was, how exhausted I was, I would be like a millionaire right now. And so, tell us what some of the things that you've heard from past participants, what could people expect if they're thinking about, wow, this sounds like something I might be interested in?
What I've heard from past participants was, I didn't expect to see the change in me. I didn't expect to think that all of a sudden it would change how I thought about me. It's so interesting. One of my colleagues, she now has a self-care routine. It's kind of embedded in her now. The one lady, Candace Cole, who runs the self-care day. I actually have a self-care day that we have dedicated to self-care on Sunday. She looks forward to that more than the rest of the things that I do at the retreat and the other speakers. She's like, I have a self-care routine now. I know what I need to do. Every day I focus on me. And that's something that she didn't used to do. I now hear from ladies that they are, focusing on trying to work with other women where they didn't focus on working with other women in the past. I hear from other women that they are taking time to mentor other women. They're looking for opportunities to mentor other women. That's something that didn't happen before, because that came out of the conversations that we had about the different generations, and focusing on trying to find different generations and bridging the generational gaps. So, those are some of the things that I'm hearing from others. It's just, hey, this made a difference. You don't understand. And then I'm also hearing, Chantera, you need to go back and look at some of this video. This changed us. You need to see that this is something that needs to keep going. Don't stop doing this.
That part. Listen, we'll drop the link in the chat. Think about it. So I know that there's some people in the audience, Chantera, who are thinking, oh, you know what? I can't afford it. This, that, and the other. Can you talk to that part of our brain that's like, I can't get away. I can't do this. What are some ways in which they might be able to start thinking about this process?
A couple of things. If you're in a company that has a professional development program where they have budget, I know some companies actually have self-care budgets now. I've worked with a couple of people to help them write proposals for their bosses. So I actually call me. I have a template already written out that I can help you write a proposal for your boss for that. We have payment plans. A lot of the ladies actually work on a payment plan, send in their money once a month to, pay throughout the month and have it done by the 1st of September. And, we can just work with you on it. I think that you're worth it. I always say, we find a way to do things that we want to do, and we have to try to prioritize ourselves. So there's always a way to get things done.
That part, we've dropped the link in the chat, the herwaveretreat.com. Make sure that you click on that. And there is a way to get there. If there is a will, there is a way. And I see people like, I need this in my life. Yes, you do. Trust me, you do. As someone who was there as a speaker, but I got to participate in some of the other sessions, it was really, I just want to commend you, Chantera, because it was done just so great. And I know sometimes when we do things for the first time in that capacity, there's a lot of question marks, right? But when I arrived and was participating, it was like you had been doing this forever. So it was just, thank you. Is there any final thoughts before we jump into our bonus questions that you just want to talk about in regards to the retreat at all?
I just want to say thank you to you, because the one thing that I remember about last year was my first year. You were the only person that I even considered for the retreat. And had you not said yes, I don't know what I would have done, because honestly, you were the only person I really wanted. You were kind of the one that you were the anchor for the first year. I was like, I want Minda to help me kick this thing off. And so you were the first person, the only person I actually considered for the year one. So I really appreciate that you said yes, because had you not, I don't even know if it would have happened. But I'm grateful that you were able to come, and you made room in your schedule, and we were able to work that out. So I appreciate you for that.
Well, I didn't know that, and thank you so much. It was such a blessing, and I talk about you to others all the time, because I'm reminding myself constantly that I need to create that space for myself, because this work that we do for all of us, it takes a lot out of us, and we have, we're in a syndemic, multiple pandemics at once happening, and we need this space to be able to lean into that. And so definitely check it out. Give yourself, listen, I know sometimes that as women, especially, we're like, we have families, we have this, we have that, and we can't get away, but it's March, y'all. This is the retreats in September. We can strategize and plot and you can take a few days off, because once we start to normalize it, it becomes the norm, right? And some things in our life, we just need to start to normalize. And so, Chantera, I am a lover of grits and rap lyrics, as you know. Now I know you're in Texas, right?
Yep.
And I know they have some good grits down there. Are you a grits eater, and how do you like your grits?
I'm a grits eater, and I'm butter and salt. That's me.
My girl, you are that girl. I knew you were, but I just need to know for myself. The best way to eat grits. How do you all like your grits? It really is classic with salt and butter. The other question that I wanted to ask is, with a good bowl of grits is a good rap lyric. What is your favorite rap lyric, and why?
Okay, so I had to go and research this one, because it changes for me. But right now, my favorite rap lyric is it's Nicki Minaj. It's Fly, featuring Rihanna, and when she says, it's in the second verse, where she says, "Cause I'm not a word. I'm not a word. I'm not a line. I'm not a girl that could ever be defined. I'm not a fly. I'm levitation. I represent an entire generation." It's just like perfect for me. I'm just like, oh, I love when she says that.
I love that so much. And going into the rest of the week, we don't have to be defined, right? And I love that so much. As you read it, I forgot about that song, and I just love the mix of Nicki and Rihanna. It's such a powerful song. Thank you for that. And one of the things that we always talk about here on Secure the Seat is we all are leaders. We don't have to wait for our manager to give us that title. We don't have to wait for the one-on-one next week or the new job. We all can activate our leadership at any time. And so for you, Chantera, what advice can you give everyone watching today on one thing they can do to make the workplace better than we found it?
Listen to your teams, especially your Black and brown team members, and also those team members who may be the quiet ones that are left unheard, because those are the ones that are probably the ones that have the most valuable information. You're missing the key nuggets that could possibly gain you the most. And those could also be the ones that may be walking out the door in 1 or 2 minutes or 1 or 2 days. As you see with this great resignation, people have options. So listen, and be intentional about listening to everyone, because everyone has value.
Listen, I love that so much. Everybody has value when we listen. And I think you make a great point, Chantera, because I think oftentimes many of us are just trying to get our points across. We're trying to, give our piece or, give our stats and all these things. And sometimes we just need to listen, right? And just hear people out before we move forward. And to your point, listen to your people of color, right? If this is an issue that is affecting them in the workplace, then don't you think you should be listening to what their experiences are, right? So I love that so much. Again, remind people when the retreat is, Chantera, and how they can connect with you, and just why this is important. Let's tell them one more time.
Okay, so the retreat is September 23rd to 25th at the Phoenician in Scottsdale, Arizona. They can connect with me on LinkedIn, Shantera Chapman, Instagram at Shantera Chapman. Just find me there or send me a DM. And go to the herwayretreat.com. There's some information there about the retreat. It's super important just to find a safe space for you, and remember that you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Listen, and if you go to their IG pages and their social media for the Her Way Retreat, you'll see some of the beautiful things that took place last year. So, if my salesman skills didn't work for you today, then go ahead and check out social media, because what you see on there is the experience. That's the best way I can describe it. It was an experience. I mean, from the dinners, Chantera had a celebrity chef, cook us how many course meal was that, Chantera? 5. Okay. It had been a long time being, stuck in the house in COVID before I had a 5-course meal, and that doesn't happen every day. And so it was just beautiful to be surrounded by women who get each other. I'm still in contact with many of the women that I met. Thank you, Chantera. I'm still in community with you. And so I just appreciate you for, listening to the creator to say this is what we need, because we do need these spaces. And listen, if you get a chance, please go. And even if you can't, share it with somebody else who might be able to attend, because this is really important. Share it with your ERG. Maybe there's some women there. We want to make sure that people know that if they do need some self-care, which I think everybody does, that there's a space for it. So don't be afraid to bet on yourself and invest in yourself. And Chantera, thank you so much for joining us for Secure the Seat. And again, we'll drop the link in the chat so people can connect with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Listen, everybody, we're almost at the end of our show. We're going to finish out the month with our affirmation. You know that we've been, Mike, my partner in Shine, has been dropping those gems every week, because we want to make sure that we're making sure that our mental state is where it needs to be, and that we're telling ourselves the things that we need to tell ourselves to get through. And if you didn't get a chance, last week, Mike was my guest, and we talked about kicking out procrastination, because that is also does not help us with having our seat at the table. But I'm going to bring Mike on to close out our affirmation for the month of March. Hey, Mike.
Hey, what's up, Minda?
I know you're jealous that there is no retreat for you to go to in this.
Absolutely. I'm sitting here mad, but I'm excited for the ladies who get to go. It's awesome.
Awesome. Well, we're at the end of the month, Mike. What's our final piece?
Absolutely. Minda, we've been talking about you're right where you're supposed to be. And I want to touch a little bit today on guilt and shame. A lot of us think it's our job and our purpose and our calling to put ourselves in guilt and shame, to put ourselves back in our past in positions where we used to be. But the fact of the matter is we are not who we used to be. We are not yesterday. We're not 10 years ago. It's right now. So you are right where you're supposed to be, ladies and gentlemen. You have to understand that God put you here for a purpose and a reason, and you are right where you're supposed to be. So stop putting yourself back in guilt. Stop putting yourself back in shame. Stop putting yourself back in mistakes. Whatever it is, you are right where you're supposed to be. It's time to move forward. It's almost a new month, so let's finish out March strong. You are right where you're supposed to be.
Listen, you're right where you're supposed to be. And if you don't think you are, then figure out where you need to be. But the one thing that I will say, Mike, this affirmation, the affirmations that we started at the top of the year each month, it's really helped me. I had a situation that had happened over the weekend that had put me kind of in a place where I didn't want to be. And I literally was in my bathroom and I said, I am right where I'm supposed to be, meaning that this situation had moved out of my life. Clearly it wasn't supposed to be there maybe to begin with. And I didn't see it as a loss in that moment. I reminded myself that I'm right where I need to be, right? What's for me won't miss me. I'm right where I'm supposed to be to receive it. And so, you know, I hope you all go into the rest of the week knowing that you're where you're supposed to be. If somebody decides they don't want to be with you, they don't want to give you the money, they don't want to support you, whatever the case may be, don't look at it as a loss. Know that you're right where you're supposed to be, because whatever is supposed to attract to you will, right? And so that job, that promotion, whatever it is, if you didn't get it at this place, doesn't mean that it's over for you. You're right where you're supposed to be. And so we just thank you. We're glad that you're here. You were right where you're supposed to be, to hear about Her Way Retreat, to be reminded that you're right where you're supposed to be. And so we just thank you for showing up with us each and every week. Don't forget to check out Chantera's retreat this later this year. You need this in your life. I'm telling you. I hope that you can get to the retreat, but if you can't, start to think about what prioritizing self-care looks like. You show up here every week in community, so make sure that you're connecting with each other offline. Follow each other on LinkedIn. You know, we are what we've been waiting for. We are here. We are the community. And so I want you to make sure that you prioritize, because we want you to live a long, healthy, and happy life. You deserve that. And so we'll see you next Monday at noon. Have a great rest of your week and keep securing the seat.
Thanks, everybody.